This is a cinnamon sugar pull apart bread with a homemade bread made from scratch, dipped in butter and cinnamon sugar. This recipe is perfect for breakfast, for brunch, or just a simple treat. With the soft, pillowy texture of the bread and that caramelized cinnamon sugar crust, this recipe is simply irresistible. So let's get into it. The first thing you're going to want to do is activate your yeast. So you're going to grab a small or medium-sized bowl, and you just want to warm up your milk in the microwave really quick. You want it to be about the temperature of a warm bath, so typically about 40 seconds in the microwave. Then to your milk, you're going to add your sugar, your yeast, and your Greek yogurt, and you're going to give this a good mix until it's nice and combined. And then you're going to set this aside for about 10 minutes or until it gets nice and frothy, until you know that the yeast has been activated. And once the yeast has been activated, it'll look a little bit something like this. Now, while the yeast is activating, you're going to grab a large bowl of a standing mixer, and you're going to add in your dry ingredients. So your flour, your cinnamon, your nutmeg, and your salt. And you're just going to give this a good mix until all of your dry ingredients are nice and combined. Once that's done and the yeast has been activated, you can pour your yeast mixture into your dry ingredients, and you're going to want to add your egg as well. And with the kneading attachment, you're going to mix this on a low to medium speed. And you're just going to mix this until it's pretty well combined and a consistent texture. You'll see that it starts pulling from the sides a little bit and it starts forming a dough ball. And once it does this, this is when you're going to want to add in your butter. So you're going to add in your butter, and then you're going to mix this on medium-low speed again. Now you may need to scrape the bottom of the bowl at this point just to make sure that it's all being incorporated into one big ball of dough, because it can get stuck at the bottom sometimes. So here I'm just adding the rest of my butter and going to knead this until it's nice and well combined. And it forms one big ball of dough. And you want to make sure that your butter is fully incorporated. Like here you can see that the butter is not mixed into the dough yet. You can still see the pieces of butter. That's not well mixed yet. It still needs to be mixed a little bit more until it creates that nice consistency. And it'll look a little bit something like this once the butter is nice and well incorporated. And from this point on, you're going to knead the dough for 10 minutes on medium-low speed. Now, as a side note, if you're finding that your dough is really wet, you can add more flour, about a tablespoon at a time. As you can see here, it is turning into one big ball of dough. It is a little bit sticky, but not too much. So you can see here it is sticking to the bottom of the bowl just a little bit, but it still has that nice form to the dough. And this is the kind of consistency that you're looking for. Now from this point on, you're going to want to let the dough rise. So grabbing a medium-sized bowl and just lightly greasing it with some oil. And you're going to grab your dough and you're just going to roll it into a ball. Now I didn't get this super well on video, but you're just going to roll it with your hands, essentially making a ball shape. And from there, you're just going to plop this into your bowl that's lightly greased. Wrap it with plastic wrap or a dish towel. And you're going to let this rest in a warm place for about 45 minutes to an hour, or until the dough has doubled in size. While the dough is rising, you can prepare your cinnamon sugar mixture. So in a medium-sized plastic container, you can just add both of your sugars, your cinnamon, and your nutmeg, and give that a good stir, making sure that all of the ingredients are well and combined. And from here, you can just set this aside until the dough is ready to be rolled out. While the dough is rising, you can also prepare your bread tin. So just lining it at the bottom with a piece of parchment paper, this is what's going to help actually be able to pull the bread out once it's done baking. And you're just going to want to lightly grease it as well. And once the bread is done rising, you can also melt your butter so it's ready to go. Once your dough has risen, either doubled in size or for 45 minutes to an hour, you can take the plastic wrap off the top of the bowl, and you're just going to want to lightly flour a rolling. Now you don't need to put a lot of flour here, it's really just so that the dough doesn't stick to the bottom of what it's being rolled on. And from here you can just place your risen dough on top of the floured surface. At first you can just flatten it out with your hands, just getting rid of any excess bubbles and flattening it out gently. And then grabbing your rolling pin and just rolling it out evenly to about a 1/4 inch thick. If you need to, do put a little bit of flour on the rolling pin just so that it doesn't stick to the dough. And you just want to roll this out till you have it to about a 1/4 inch thick. Now once it's rolled out, you can grab a knife, but I prefer to use a pizza cutter to cut these pieces of the dough. It's just easier with a pizza cutter, but a knife also works. And you just want to cut out squares, about 2 to 3 inches. And you're just going to cut all of your dough into these 2 to 3 inch squares. And once they're all cut, you want to grab your butter and your cinnamon sugar mixture. And you're going to grab your squares that you just cut out of the bread dough. And you're going to directly dip these squares into the butter and then into the cinnamon sugar mixture, making sure it's fully covered, really getting every nook and cranny. And then you're going to set these aside for a moment and repeat the process with each of these bread squares. So dipping them directly in the butter and then directly into the cinnamon sugar mixture, making sure they're fully coated. And here I just set mine aside on the cutting board, and these are ready to be placed in the tin and assembled. So with the lightly greased and lined bread tin, you can go ahead and directly place your bread squares directly into the tin one at a time. And you're going to place them each up against each other, just like this. And you can put as many as you want in your bread tin. This bread tin was quite large, so I put in about 15 to 18 pieces of the bread in here. But if you're using a regular bread tin, I would suggest putting 10 in each bread tin. And this dough will make about 20 pieces, so you would need 2 regular bread tins. And once that's done, you're going to cover the top with plastic wrap and let these rise for about half an hour to 45 minutes in a warm place. And once they're done rising, this is a little bit of what they'll look like. So good. And these are ready to bake. So you're going to preheat your oven to 350. You're going to grab a piece of tin foil and lightly butter one side of it. And you're going to grab this piece of tin foil and place it on top of the bread gently, but curling over the sides. This is going to give it that nice crispy texture without burning it. And you're going to pop this in the oven for between 40 to 45 minutes, depending on your oven. And while that's baking, you can make your icing. So you're going to grab a medium-sized bowl. You're going to pour your sugar, your butter, your vanilla, and your milk. And you're going to give this a good mix until it's all nice and well combined. If you want it to be a little bit thicker, you can add more icing sugar. And if you want it to be thinner, you can add more milk. This recipe is really versatile for this icing, and it's super simple. So just giving this a good mix, and then you can set this aside until the bread is done baking. And once the bread is done baking, you can pull it out of the oven, but you do want to let this cool completely. But look at this golden crust. This is so good, but you do want to make sure that it cools. And once it cools, you can grab it from the parchment paper and just pull it out easily like that. and then just pull the parchment paper from under the bread. Place it on a plate or a cutting board, wherever you wanted the bread. And you can just go ahead and directly pour your icing on top of this pull apart bread. I mean, come on, look at this. And I did pull my bread out a little bit early. That's why it's kind of falling a little bit. So that's why you do want to make sure that it cools completely, but it'll be just as good. And there you have cinnamon sugar pull apart bread. Whether you're making this for an event, a special occasion, or just for family or breakfast or brunch, this is sure to be a hit, and it'll be gone in seconds. This is perfect for cinnamon roll lovers, bread lovers, brunch lovers, anyone. If you like this recipe, make sure to like, follow, and subscribe. And let me know in the comments if you tried this recipe or if there's any recipes you want more of. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.